Good morning, everybody. Today is Thursday, March 10th. I'd like to call the Economic Development Commission meeting to order. The minutes. Do we have any comments or questions or changes to the minutes? Do we have a motion for approval?
Motion to approve.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Town updates. Mr. Cook.
Good morning, how are you all?
Good morning.
We are first and foremost in the middle of budget season, so that's where our energies have been directed recently. And that's essentially looking in two directions. One is in front of us and what we're presenting to the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance, and behind us to see what the state is going to try to do to us in the meantime. And as I was mentioning to a few of you earlier, there are real concerns with what they're up to in the budget session. It includes things like the governor's proposed an exemption for personal property for businesses with less than 10,000 in personal property, which would impact us and probably have over 75,000 in revenues a year. There's also a proposal that currently, if you are delinquent on your municipal taxes and you go to the Department of Motor Vehicles, you're not able to renew the license. And that's been one of the few incentives out there for people to actually pay their taxes. Well, there's now a proposal that be waived. That would, there are significant delinquent taxes out there. So that other than our normal process it's sort of the quickest and most effective way of getting people to pay. So I think that's probably tied with the speed of the Department of Motor Vehicles in terms of treating customers. That doesn't seem like a very reasonable trade-off. But at any rate, we continue to battle on a proposed cap on budget increases of 2.5%. Are you guys familiar with this one? Okay. What that means is that I believe not this fiscal year, but starting next fiscal year, if your budget grows by more than 2.5%, the state will penalize you in terms of the grants it gives you in state funds. That doesn't matter if your taxes are flat. It doesn't take into account any grand list growth. It doesn't take into effect that we already have a referendum process for our residents decide whether or not the town has done a reasonable job with the budget. That's the process we use. It's nice of the state to try to help us with financial management, but it's very, very poorly conceived.
Have they passed that yet, or is that just...
That's current law, and so we're taking a run at it. And one of the exceptions, for example, is for any collective, any labor award that comes out of arbitration would be excluded from that, which seems to me would create an incentive for everybody, unions and towns, to run off to arbitration. So we're watching that. We're watching what they're doing with their current commitments to us, which, as they continue to slash, may be jeopardized. So a lot of attention's been is being paid to what the state's doing. In the meantime, the First Selectman's office with Sarah continue to meet with businesses. We met with Antonio the other day. And I know you've got a number of ongoing projects that we've started. We met with Deepwater Wind. There is a proposal for a major solar project that's been submitted to the state. It would take up, if it moves forward, it would probably occupy, I think, what was the number? Something like 180 acres of land currently owned by Griffin Land. It's going through the state. We have, other than things like inland wetland approvals, if this thing goes, we would have very little control over that. They are meeting with us. They're anxious to figure out if this goes forward, how they can make this work for the community. But the proof, of course, will be in the pudding on that. They anticipate that the state will award its decision sometime later this year. So we're certainly a couple of years away from anything actually showing up. If it does happen, there would probably be a significant revenue stream coming from it for the town.
But the state's gonna finance it all, right?
That's no financing coming from us. That's a fact, and it's
Say that again?
it's certainly not coming from the town of Simsbury.
Well, the state doesn't have much money, so don't hang your neck on that one.
There you go.
Is that on the property that was slated for subdivisions?
I think that may be right. There are actually, I think, 2 plots that they're looking at. I think that's, for the time being, that's pretty much what's going on with us. Of course, the Silverman Group, I think you've all heard about that. They've applied for demolition permits. They are looking to, they've hired some very good people to work with them, including Gateway. And they are, I think, hoping to move quickly with this project. So the bad news, of course, is that the buildings are coming down with the attendant $1.5 million impact. In the
Have the
meantime,
inland wetland guys approved that? They have to go before them, right?
there is a piece of that. That's still in process, Dave. But I think the chances of there being any real inland wetlands impact based on what they're doing is going to be minimal. But we'll see.
The inland wetland guys, until they approve it, they can't start the demolition,
I
right?
believe that's correct.
Tell them to go slow.
So that's where we are. Any questions for me?
I just want to welcome Maher's Paint and Wallpaper to Simsbury. It's exciting that they've opened in town, and it's great to see that area of town get revitalized.
Hopefully we'll see more.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Reports. Who would like to go first?
You weren't even here last month.
That's all right. No, I wasn't.
I'm going to be very brief this morning because I lost about a week of this month to the flu. So as Tom mentioned, we've been working very closely with the First Selectman's office as the Economic Development Task Force had recommended. And actually, we'd been doing steps to do that before the report even came out, to focus on the marketing study, the Economic Development Task Force recommendations, and moving a lot of those forward. And I think we've gotten a very good protocol down now, where the inquiries will come in through the First Selectman's office, and then Tom will refer them to Jamie and to myself. Currently, we're seeing quite a bump in interest in distilleries. It's seriously, we've had 4 different people that are interested in opening distilleries, very similar like to the Waypoint Spirits in Bloomfield. We're also seeing a bump in inquiries in craft beer, so that's just a heads up. None of those have really been fruitful thus far. A lot of them are still in the business plan stages and having issues with the funding packages, but that has become a very big interest, especially in Simsbury currently. We've been working on a bunch of different projects. As Tom mentioned, we did meet with Antonio's, not only to discuss what he is potentially planning for the White House and the pieces that he just acquired, but for those of you that don't know, he also owns about 20-something acres, which include Gemini, and he just got it back from the federal government just under a month ago when FEMA came in and redrew their floodplains. It basically made quite a bit of land inactive. They fought it with the town's help and Mike Glidden's help. We're very successful. So Stephen is looking to what can he do in that region as well. And so both the town and Main Street are assisting him in moving forward with some marketing and market opportunities, market study, things like that. So, again, not a small property owner. We sometimes tend to forget how much property that the Antonios own, very similar to the Christiansens. Just a reminder, Tom and I are headed to a department head meeting at 8:30. So we will have to leave at 8:30. And, we're just continuing with business visitations. we've been working with the EDC on some of the website stuff and the verbiage that you guys are using, and just continuing our work.
How are we doing on the rebranding with Jeff?
We will be holding a very large meeting that's going to be open to everybody, and all of the, again, like we did last time, but even bigger. We're looking for, again, representatives from all the organizations. We're going to be inviting in, recreation has become so hot in Simsbury, so we'll be inviting in both what you're doing with the new nonprofit as well as triathlon. And I'm sorry, we're going to be providing the prizes again for the triathlon this year, as we've done it every year. So we're looking to try to get a date for the Simsbury Inn in late March. So that's what we're looking at right now. As soon as we hear that, we'll be advertising it. We'll ask all the commission members to attend. It'll be open to residents, business owners, the community, every stakeholder.
I know in the past, you've been involved in sporting events that come to Simsbury, competitive, whether it's hockey or something else, and putting together either packages of where to stay and where to go. Are you still involved in doing that as they show up?
We do. I will say that, for example, we put together a whole bunch of very exciting travel itineraries last year with the Simsbury Inn and the 1820 House. The only issue is we couldn't take it live because they've experienced tremendous growth, especially corporations, et cetera, and so they've been full most of the time, so we weren't able to take advantage of those. So we are finding a little bit of a rub in that there's less beds available, which is both good news and also a little bit more problematic. But we do that as needed, absolutely.
So is there an ongoing relationship between Main Street and the organizing people so that, okay.
We have the best relationship, I'll say, with hockey, and that tends to be the one that needs the most beds. So, we'd, I think even back when Chip was my president, or VP, 15 years ago, we worked with the hockey, the Christmas Day hockey tournament, and put them in Simsbury, and then working with the skating center. This was year 2. This was the last year that they're going to be doing the junior Olympic whatever. But yes, hockey tends to have the most demand, but we have been tapped to work with any recreational organizations as needed.
Okay, good. Other comments or questions? Thank you very much.
Morning, sorry I missed you last month. Well, we all say when I'm here, Sarah. I emailed my information, for goodness sake.
I know, Mark did a nice job.
Well, I don't know, gee, maybe I should know I won't. Anyway, couple of events, I know I've mentioned them before. I shall remind you. On the 28th of April, we will be at the Ellsworth Center at 7 o'clock for our kickoff to the bus tour. Lucianne Lavin is doing a talk on Native Americans and how they fit into the Farmington River historically. And that, again, is 7 o'clock. And it is a total of $5 if you're not part of our bus tour, which is the 30th. And it is the Farmington River Currents Through Time. We're starting, this is phase 1. It goes from Collinsville to the Hitchcock Factory, Riverton, Barkhamsted, back to Satan's Kingdom, and then back to Collinsville with a stop. And it is in a press release that is coming out shortly at Palmetto if it's open for ice cream. All our bus tours want Palmetto, no matter whether we're in Riverton or in Burlington. They want to stop at Palmetto, so that is certainly a stop. Next year's will be Simsbury, Granby, Scranby, Avon, Farmington. Upper Farmington River this year, Lower Farmington River next year. As I will be talking about the state of tourism, the state conference is April 27th. I don't know if the people involved in that will, according to what Dave told me this morning, since I overslept and didn't listen to news, they could all be laid off, and that may not happen. One never knows, but the state held 8 marketing meetings throughout the state so that everybody interested in what's going on with the state combined website was there. They talked a little bit about that magazine, but what they would like to say with their wonderful advertising and marketing information is that from last year, from 2014 to 15, summertime, we had a 4% increase in overnight stays statewide, a 12% increase in visitors to attractions, and a 9% increase in spending. And they're saying that that is something that we should all cheer about, so I suppose we could pass the round of applause. If things stay the way they think they will, and state tourism is funded, it'll be $8.5 million instead of the 15 that it started at. That is still iffy. In terms of regional tourism, at this point, there is not a sound that we have heard as of yesterday that there will be regional tourism funding at all. I will say that today there is a meeting of the Executive Board of the Central Regional Tourism District, which we will have a speaker from the Connecticut Tourism Coalition. So whatever new information I have, if it's important to get out to you email before April, I will be glad to do so. If not, we will see. But a representative from Adams and Knight, who is doing a lot of the state website and marketing, came to the meeting I attended, and that's how you got the brand-new off-the-press copy of what used to be called the Connecticut Vacation Guide. Now they're just calling it a visitor's guide. Part of the reason why they've changed that name is that there are no listings, as I don't know how many of you recall what it used to look like. It was at least a half an inch thick. It had all the accommodations and the restaurants, a lot of major attractions. It had boating and fly fishing and anything else you could possibly want to see at your fingertips. They've decided the way to market the still revolutionary concept is to do experiences and key dichotomy words, and that is the cover of that publication, and to drive everybody to the state's website, which is ctvisit.com. And as Mark and I were talking about before the meeting, it doesn't say on the cover, visit ctvisit.com for information. I really haven't gone through it other than to see where the fact that we paid for our ad, that it truly showed up, which it did. So at least that's a positive point. They have requested all 3 tourism districts to put their information into the state website with a specific link to the district. It is being revised, updated, renovated as we speak. You will be able to be on it until March 18th, then it will close, and then it'll have its major launch April 4th. And that's where we stand now. As I said before, anything new I find out this afternoon, if it's truly earth-shaking, I'll get it right out to you, and you can get it out to everybody. Questions?
Is this available in PDF right now to share?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
I can find that out for you.
Okay.
But I should be able to get an answer to that today. And there'll be another one out in the fall,
Twice a year.
twice a year.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Just a quick question, Sarah, I forgot to ask, has there been a decision made on the farmer's market for this year?
No, we should have one within the next 2 weeks.
Okay, thanks.
Whether it goes or doesn't go, right? Okay. Number 5, Connecticut, the EDC website updates and monitoring and changes. I was at the website a day or two ago, and I guess the 2 places we can actually add some content right now would be in a couple of the projects that are taking place in town, which would be a notification of the application for demolition of HIG, of the Hartford property, and then secondly, to go down to the CLMP and see if we can take a photo or at least mention what's going on down there as to current projects. Would be one area that we could bring up to speed. And then the other one was current parcels that are available in town. And also there are, I guess, we send them to the statewide inventory of what's available. I don't think we have something specific to the town.
I can check that one.
Yeah, so those are only 2 things. So we should work with, in this case, with Rick Pisano in terms of getting that kind of stuff on board.
Rick and Stephanie, I'll certainly do what I can to help too.
Yeah. Has anybody else taken a look and see what,
I had those same notes, the activity part, under activity, there's nothing. So when you click on those pages to see what list of projects, there's nothing, so that doesn't send a good message.
Oh, no, that was
And-
something that we had asked Jamie to work on.
We have, actually, the data is.
We have it
there, so
now.
we just have to get it up.
Yeah, and some photos would help too, because there's a photo category of recent projects. So if there's any demolition or whatever there's going on, that shows activity. Our agenda's missing, I don't know, and our minutes.
They weren't before.
On EDC website, I checked last night. So on the EDC website part, our agenda and minutes are missing from that. Maybe it's on the town part somewhere?
No, it was on there before, so we'll
Yeah,
have
it
to
should-
follow
it
up with
should be on
Rick.
there.
It was working before, so I don't know if the
Literally
link is
watching
broken.
Joanne put them on, so.
Oh,
I'm
so
sure.
maybe, I don't, just check on that. And a couple of the links, where to dine, this is nitpicking, like, it's an upside-down print-ready menu. It should be like a hyperlink text, it should be HTML text with hyperlinks versus a PDF.
That's a
that-
PDF that was designed by Tourism that they're reworking on.
Yeah.
And it's very outdated.
Yeah, it looks, yeah, so I just comment on that.
Tourism was supposed to be working on a new version of that. I'll
and-
follow up with Dominique.
And the question I have for you is, there's a contact form on EDC, so could there be reporting if you had any submissions through that form this past month?
Not that I'm aware of,
Okay,
and they would be sent to me.
okay. I would be curious
Because
to
it gets
know.
forwarded directly to you.
Correct.
Correct.
And then also analytics, if we could get just a quick report on, like, is there any traffic going to those, the EDC page? And if there is, where do they click and where do they go? It's very simple. You tie Google Analytics onto that section of the website, so you could literally go into Chrome and see percentages, right?
town does
next
that.
to,
Rick
yeah,
already
very
can
simple.
track that
Yeah.
stuff, so it's built into the system that we can track. it, so.
Exactly, so if we could just get a little, sort of knowing if anybody's going. We could-
yeah, so going forward, now that we are up and running, I would like all commissioners to periodically look at the website, and at each of our monthly meetings is to make suggestions as to what they think we should either add or what may be going on around town, because we're going to have to give a continual feedback to Rick, so these things get posted or taken down or the like, so that the website remains current, because now it's the digital platform that we have to at least, tell our story and let other people know, both outside of town as well as inside of town, what is actually going on, because it is surprising that people, even though stuff is in the newspapers, will say, I didn't know that was going on. Tom, if we were to, let's say, an ongoing project, and we wanted to post a picture, what are the rules about posting a picture of, let's say, the thing that's going down at CLMP? Are we violating anybody's, by going down and taking a couple photos, or they don't care, or should we ask for permission?
I would, I would probably, just as a courtesy call, but I can't imagine that there's going to be any, the only area where we get, have real concerns is if we end up with people's identifiable faces, particularly with kids. That's the kind of thing you have to worry about. But
And secondly, are we allowed to solicit a quote from somebody who's doing the work down there that we started breaking ground and we expect to do X, Y, Z type of stuff? And
I think that would be fine.
yeah, just sort of like a little comment
Yeah.
from somebody else. Okay, so if we grab that stuff and we can pass it on
Get
to
it in
Rick
some form
Mazzano.
to us, and we'll figure out.
Okay. Any other comments on the website?
Looks great.
Okay. EDC liaison.
You had mentioned the other day that the town is getting great feedback on the town website from
Overall,
users.
Absolutely. I'm sorry, I should have, thank you, Chris. Yeah. We're getting 1, 2, 3 emails every week saying, gee, it's a lot easier to use. And so, and those are unsolicited. Those are the ones that just come through the comment section. So that's been very gratifying when you think about the hours and hours of committee work and staff time that went into that. It really does look great. And as I look around at other town sites, I'm proud of ours.
And is the town staff happy with how it's laid out and working, and the department heads are?
There was enough commonality in terms of the functioning, that it hasn't been a major challenge to make the adjustment, and I think everyone's happy with the way it looks.
Do you know yet if they find that they're getting less phone calls looking for information?
That I don't know.
Okay.
That I don't know.
And we're pretty much done with the website in terms of bringing it up to speed, aside from tweaking and the rest of it
Correct.
across the
Yep.
town.
Yes. I think you'll find most of the links are now working nicely on hell, I use that drop-down page all the time when I'm looking for stuff.
Okay, moving on. EDC liaison to the town, now that EDC now is going to be tied into the First Selectman's office. Chris has volunteered to sort of represent EDC to that office as needed, so she will be our liaison to the First Selectman's office going forward and sit in as things evolve over time.
To that point, Matt, the Charter Revision Commission guys are gonna talk about this, I think, right? Isn't that how
They're still talking about boards and commissions in the charter, yes. that remains out there.
So are you being premature in this liaison aspect with the First Selectman's office?
No, this is just ongoing, basically ongoing business to have a presence from EDC to the First Selectman's office, that's all.
Dave, none of the changes charter revision makes will take place in the near term anyway.
Well, I understand,
So there's,
But if we're gonna be obliviated, you know, we ought to know about it in advance, you know?
Well, I
know.
if that happens, it's not near term in any sense. The only thing I've heard the Charter Commission discuss is we have something like 21 boards and commissions in our charter. That's easily 3 times what most towns have. They include things like the Human Relations Commission, which I think has met twice in the last 10 years or something like that. Most of the commissions and boards in there do not have to be have to exist legally, and so one of the theories is in terms of trying to avoid a charter revision commission every 2 years. Is to get this thing to a framework so that if there are changes to be made, it can be done by ordinance, and you're not in the situation where you have to go back and revise the charter each time. If that happens, some commissions may come out of the charter and reappear by ordinance. That's, I think, about all I've heard them talk about so far.
Okay. Old business, new business, anything else kicking around that people would like to talk about? Issues, concerns?
Some history on distilleries. I don't know if people knew it, but Simsbury there was a gin distillery halfway between Millwrights and 55 and up, 1 West Street. The foundation's still there, and the name Hopbrook, the hops were grown up where the high school is, so that's where the name Hopbrook came from. So we had a gin distillery in town.
Is it any good?
Yeah. So now we got distillery, marijuana, and explosives. What a great little...
Just like Pioneer America all over again, right? Free for all.
But you know, they'll start out,
Just
they make the money.
plumbing, that's
I'll add that to
all.
my branding.
Enjoy plumbing, yes, yes.
Bourbon takes 6 years, and they'll buy it from Buffalo Trace or somebody to start, and then they'll make their money on gin and vodka. That's what they all do. So.
I guess with the other inquiries, we could be a real swing in town here in the not-too-distant future, right?
To the point about when the pot factory was coming in, which kind of slid in under the veil of night, as we all know, but there was a lot of discussion about the control on where that product was going to go and how it's going to be monitored, and the state, I guess, was going to be involved. Is there some reporting channel of where their product goes that goes in through the police department? Does anyone know how that works?
I know of.
It's
Every
confidential,
time
we
I try
can't
to climb
share
the
that.
fence, they shoo me away.
You'll have to show you first.
They're doing the job. No, but I mean, if you think about it, there are 4 of these places that are growing pot, and they still don't have a recreational aspect on it, which is the big enchilada. So the question, though, is the control on that product out of the four, because it doesn't seem to me like there's sufficient market legally to handle all that. So they're supposed to be handling and reporting that out, but I don't know to whom they report it, you know?
My guess is the state, they have to report everything back through the state because they're state-run
Yeah, but
facilities.
who in the state, sir?
I believe it's consumer protection.
I'm sorry?
I believe it's consumer protection, I'm not positive though.
So they report in periodically how much they send and all that kind of stuff?
They oversee the whole operation, I believe.
Do you guys get a report on that through? the
Not
police
that I'm
department?
aware of.
No, and it's handled differently because it's for medicinal purposes versus recreational or anything else. So there's controls, there's confidentiality, there's all sorts of other pieces in place that make it different than something that the police department would deal with.
So we don't know, right?
Well, it's like a pharmaceutical company.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna guess that the state won't share things because they'll consider it proprietary.
So no matter what you say, they're not gonna let you in.
Right. But there's been no public safety
I'm trying to
issues
get in,
from
but
it,
they
so
won't let me
they've been a good tenant.
in. Well, they've got a lawsuit going on. What do you mean they've been a good tenant?
There's been no public safety issues as a result of them being here.
And they're current-
And they pay their taxes.
Well,
Generally, I
lawsuit,
think the
that's all I
demand
know.
has been less than expected.
Right.
And so the ones, the four that are up have had more of a struggle than what they expected financially.
So where's the extra stuff going that they're growing? That's the question.
We're not telling Dave.
We'll never find out.
That's where the money is.
It's an inventoried pharmaceutical.
Yeah.
Okay. With that, do we have any other issues, new or old business to raise? If not, do we have a motion for? What?
Could I go back to, Sarah was talking about, you know, hotel rooms and things when tourists come in. There's like, take the Marriott down in Avon. If people go into the Marriott, that's like a hotel, obviously, so they have to pay a sales tax on going there. There's some talk about some of these apartments being used along the same vein, particularly the one out here at Dorset Crossing, that if you want to go in for a short-term stay for a week or 2 weeks or something, you go in and you rent.
There's short-term stays that they're offering are for people relocating to the area that don't have housing, and they're typically 3 to 6 month
Right.
Yes.
opportunities for furnished apartments.
They have furnished apartments.
Yes,
They
very
furnish-
different, Dave.
It's 3 to 6 months typically, and it's for people who can't get into their new home yet because it's either being built or they can't close on it. And these are executives relocating to the area who need temporary housing, and they want to
So
be in
that-
Simsbury versus being at the Residence Inn or up in
Right.
Windsor.
Yeah, but my question is, that there's a sales tax on that, right, that they pay?
Well, no,
to
they
the
enter
state?
into a lease just like anybody else renting.
The hotels have a sales tax, but what you're talking about is a little bit more complicated, and that is factored into their lease agreement.
So the property owner is paying property taxes on the apartment, but they're offering 3 to 6 month lease terms versus 1 year lease terms.
So it's structured differently, Dave? It's different than like the Simsbury Inn or the 1820 house?
The Residence Inn or whatever, they do a week to week and they'll give you a monthly rate, but,
Even for 6 months, it's different, there's not that lease component.
Yes.
right, you don't enter into a lease with the Residence Inn or Homewood Suites or any,
Well, would
it's,
they enter into a lease on that arrangement up here at Giorgio's project?
they do enter into leases,
Yes.
short-term leases.
Very similar to, I know
So
that
that's different
Britson's
than if-
also doing that as well.
Yeah,
That's different than if somebody goes down to the Marriott for, say, a month
Yes,
or two.
It is
Yes.
very different.
Yes.
Completely different, completely different.
John Ritson over at Kings Ridge is offering 2 units for that, and Dorset furnished, and they're typically 3 to 6 months in time.
Yep. So those are the two places that we know of that are
So the
currently
town
doing
gets
that.
no different tax emolument coming in because of the, just property tax, right?
Yes.
Just property taxes.
Yes,
And it keeps their vacancy rates down.
yes.
Because with all the apartments that are being built, there's gonna be more and more of that happening, particularly if they can't run them all up, right?
That's a case-by-case decision that individual owners will make.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear, sir.
It's a case-by-case decision that individual owners will have to make.
I understand. We got so many apartments that are being built, we're gonna be drowning in apartments around here pretty soon if we don't get a little slowdown. So naturally, they're gonna try to fill the rooms, you know? Whether it's short-term, long-term, who knows? But that whole area is gonna expand a little bit, I would think,
Well,
you know?
the other thing I would say, Dave, though, is that all the people that have been putting up the apartments are doing so with good market research that says there is a demand.
Yeah, I know, Sarah, but when you look at how much is going up in this valley and around Hartford, they're drowning on them. At the last meeting that we had of the government affairs of the chamber, there was a lot of discussion about this whole issue, because everyone is, you know, it's sort of like everyone wants to get their stake in the ground quick, because they know there's all this pressure of the developer to get into this land of milk and honey. Everyone's leaving Connecticut, but they're building apartments. I don't know what's gonna fill them, you know, so. That's why this issue is gonna, it's like the Uber car deal, right? They're gonna find a different way to market the product, so.
That's fair, that is a potential, should they have a certain amount of vacancies.
Sure.
But as I understand it, the zoning regulations aren't going to allow them to do a nightly rate, like, because of the way the property is zoned.
And
it's
it's
structured so differently
Right.
that
You have to
it
structure it
can't
like
do
a
it.
lease,
Yeah,
absolutely.
You can't do that.
So it would
Because
have
the
certain
zoning
protections.
guidelines wouldn't allow for it.
Yes, it won't turn into a hotel.
No.
A night-by-night hotel.
I hear you. It's a potential thing to keep your eye on. It also give you more room for the hockey guys, so.
They don't typically stay for 3 months, but
Well, there's
Long
ways to
overtime
read that.
period.
All right, with that, do we have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
I.
Thank you. So how do we,
Rick Pisano needs to be.
Once you have
We
the
still
right
have, we
meeting,
still
we're
do.
never
not.
out by 8. If this is how it is, you should come every day. How are things?
Okay.